This is a video on how to bisect a segment. So we are actually going to draw any segment you want, okay? It doesn't have to be horizontal, and it can be whatever length you want. Let's go ahead and put points on the end. And so I'm going to call this M and N. Okay, so I've got my line segment MN, and I want to bisect it. So all you need to do is take your compass, and you need to make sure that the distance, the radius, is at least halfway. So that looks under halfway, or maybe actually halfway. You don't want it to be that. You don't want to try to get it to be halfway. You want it to be over half the distance of the segment. So you want to make it bigger. Okay, so that's more than halfway. And so you're going to put your point on one of the end points and make an arc above and below. So above, below, okay? And then you're going to do the same thing, keeping it that same distance for the other end point. So above and below, okay? And then when we connect, if we drew a line, that actually makes a perpendicular line. So when we bisect a segment, we actually can, it's the same way that you perpendicularly bisect a segment. So drawing the line would give us the perpendicular bisector, but we just want to bisect it. So instead of actually fully drawing that line, we're not going to do that. We're just going to mark the center. So line it up like you would draw the line, or now let's just do that. Line it up like you're going to draw the line and just mark it here. Okay, so right there, that is the midpoint of that segment. So we can call that midpoint, let's say O. Okay, so what we did was we bisected that line segment. So we can say a couple things. We can say that the distance MO is equal to ON. So remember, without the line on top is the actual measurement. So if we actually measured this, the measurements would be equal. And we'll learn about some theorems and things if we haven't already, that means that the actual segments themselves are congruent. So that also tells us that those two segments are congruent. But when we bisect gives us equal measures, not congruency. We would use the definition of congruency to get to this statement. So if we say, hey, we're going to bisect this, then it tells us this, and then by the definition of congruency, it also tells us that. And let's go ahead and measure, see how good we were. So always use centimeters because it's just more accurate. So that looks pretty much in the middle. So it'd be 4.35, it looks like. And then so if we multiply 4.35 times 2, I don't even have to move this. 4.35 times 2 would be 8.7. And look, it's almost 8.7. So that's pretty good. And again, there's human error. There's maybe I wasn't careful enough. As long as you've got those markings and show what you're doing, you should be good. So that's how you bisect a segment.